Hi, everybody, and welcome to Love Fraud Live. Almost everyone who is targeted by a sociopath in a romantic relationship experiences love bombing, which is over the top attention and affection. Love bombing is fundamentally deceptive. That's why you need to know how to spot it. I'm Donna Anderson, author of lovefraud.com and host of the True Love Fraud Stories podcast. After betrayal by a sociopath, I help you to understand what happened, recover, and move forward. Tonight, I'll explain the warning signs that your exciting new romantic partner is love bombing you. I'll identify 7 classic love bombing strategies. At the end of this short presentation, I'll answer your questions, and also please subscribe to Love Fraud Live. When you do, you'll be notified about all of my upcoming videos. Okay, let's get started. So, is it love or is it love bombing? I discuss this in my book, Red Flags of Love Fraud, 10 Signs You're Dating a Sociopath. Red flag number 4 is love bombing. When sociopaths are in full seduction mode, they want to be with you all the time. If they're not physically with you, they want to be in constant communications with you. They proclaim their love quickly, frequently, and persistently. Most of us interpret this ceaseless devotion as an indication that our new partner is truly smitten. But it's not love, it's love bombing. Unlike true love, love bombing is insincere. It is not an expression of your new partner's deepest feelings. It is a strategy to achieve an objective. And the objective is winning you over so that you give the sociopath what he or she wants. What does this look like? My Red Flags of Love Fraud book is based on a survey filled out by 1,352 Love Fraud readers. They answered questions about their experiences with romantic partners whom they came to believe were sociopaths. 75% of respondents rated their partners as overly attentive. In other words, they were love bombing. So here are some examples that the survey respondents shared with me. He came on like the gangbuster of love and romance. He was so attentive, caring, affectionate, sexy, exciting, interesting, and willing to go to any length to be with me. Here's another example. He called me from one of the islands in the Southern Caribbean. It cost him $20 just to make the call. He breathed in really deep and said he felt like he was drowning, and I was his air. He was constantly saying things like that, always into me. No one had ever paid so much attention to me. And here's what a male respondent wrote. I hadn't been romantically involved with anyone in a very long time, and I had never met anyone who was so enthralled with me, who I was, even what I had to say. I suppose the attention she poured upon me was enough for her to secure me as her next victim. So, how did these relationships turn out? The gangbuster of love lasted less than a year. When the woman met his children, they told her that their father, quote, was not always this nice. In fact, his 6-year-old son announced, "My dad is a cheater." Then she found out that the man also solicited prostitutes. After she finally cut him off, he stalked her. She had to take legal action and was mentally and psychologically anguished by the relationship for another 2 years. The deep breather in the second example was married, although he claimed it wasn't for long. But the relationship was officially an affair for 3 years. Eventually, he divorced his wife and did marry the love fraud survey respondent. Then, the woman found out that her new husband was an exploiter. She lost money, lost her home, incurred debt, and considered suicide. In the third case, the sociopathic woman was indeed looking for a victim. Here's what the man wrote about his experience. She was very charming and attentive. She would stare at me with what I misunderstood to be amazement. She quickly moved the relationship into the bedroom. She told me that she didn't think she could get pregnant, and I foolishly had unprotected sex with her. She was soon pregnant with twins, and we were married just 2 months after we met. So, what generally happens is that the sociopath overwhelm you and your phone. Here's what I discovered in the love fraud survey. 75% of respondents reported that the sociopath called them frequently. 41% said that the sociopath sent a lot of text messages. Now, this research was done in 2011. That number is probably a lot higher these days. 38% said the sociopath sent them frequent emails. Many love fraud readers reported dozens of contacts daily, and this is not an exaggeration. In the beginning, the sociopath may say things like, "I just want to hear your voice." Later on, as sociopaths escalate control, they demand to know where you are and whom you are with. Should you fail to answer a call or respond to a text, you may be subjected to punishment, ranging from outbursts of rage to the cold, heartless, silent treatment. This is certainly a dramatic change from the over-the-top love bombing that you experienced in the beginning of the relationship. So, in summary, here are 7 classic love bombing strategies employed by sociopaths and what they really mean. Strategy number 1, whirlwind romance. Your new beau wants to see you all the time. He or she wants to hang out, go on dates, even plan vacations, and you've just met. You may feel like your time is being monopolized. Well, it is. Why? Because the sociopath wants to sink his or her hooks into you before you escape. Here's strategy number 2, constant communication. When your new beau isn't physically with you, he or she is communicating constantly. Phone calls, text messages, social media comments, emails. You are bombarded. Now, this isn't just staying in touch. It's about staying in control. Here's strategy number 3, lots of sex. Most sociopaths want a lot of sex. Love fraud readers often report that the sex with the sociopath is plentiful and exciting, at least in the beginning. Sociopaths know that if they can get you hooked sexually, you are under their control. But once they snag you, their interest in sex may wane. Sex with you, that is. They may still be pursuing others. Here's strategy number 4, lots of gifts. Some people say that their love language is gifts. For them, presents and mementos, even small, inexpensive ones, signal affection. Maybe sociopaths know this, or maybe they don't. Most likely, during the seduction phase, sociopaths try everything, including gifts, to see what reels you in. Of course, the gifts may be recycled or stolen from someone else, but hey, who cares? It's the thought that counts, right? Here's strategy number 5, lots of assistance. At first, your new beau can't seem to do enough for you. Mow the grass, cook your dinner, run your kids around, no problem. Again, this is all part of the seduction. Once they feel like they have you, they'll never lift a finger ever again, even when you are desperately ill and truly need assistance. Strategy number 6, the grand gesture. As romantic partners, sociopaths are masters of the grand gesture, a big dramatic display of affection, preferably with an audience. He might get on one knee in the middle of your office building lobby to propose. She might announce your upcoming wedding at your family reunion, even though you never talked about it. The idea is to overwhelm you so that you feel pressured to go along with the program. Finally, here's strategy number 7, proclamations of love. These romantic partners quickly and loudly proclaim their love. Of course, sociopaths do not have the ability to authentically love, so they don't know what they're saying. They do know, however, that if they say the words, "I love you," they get what they want. So they say it early and often. They keep repeating it until you feel obligated to respond in kind. And then you desperately try to talk yourself into loving the person, even if you have doubts. So those are the 7 classic love bombing strategies. If you are targeted as a sociopath's new romantic interest, it's quite possible that you will be showered with more attention, adoration, and gifts than you've ever experienced in your life. You may feel giddy with excitement. You may feel that you have been placed on a pedestal that's so high that the air around you is thin and you can hardly breathe. Well, breathe anyway. Take slow, deep breaths so that you can calm down and listen to your gut. Are you experiencing love or love bombing? The best way to protect yourself from sociopaths is to trust your instincts. Your intuition evolved over millennia to protect you from predators. Your intuition will tell you when something is wrong. Now, it can be difficult to pay attention to your instincts when you're being love bombed, but that's exactly when you should pay attention. If your senses are telling you that the words and actions are fake, take this information seriously. Then take action to get away. That's the presentation for tonight. If you're dealing with a psychopath, antisocial, or narcissist, reach out to me. I can help you to heal from the betrayal through EFT tapping, Reiki, and guided mindfulness. For more information, please visit lovefraud.com/talk to Donna. So now I'll answer your questions. Please type your comments and questions into the chat. Feel free to ask me anything, whether it's related to this presentation on love bombing or not. Oh, got some comments. Okay, so here's a question. This is a great question. Is there research to indicate that some of us actually get addicted to the notifications on our devices when they're bombarding us with messages? Well, I haven't seen any research on that, but to me, it sounds like classic conditioning. You know, it's just like Pavlov's dogs. You probably heard of that. This psychologist in Russia, Pavlov, trained dogs to salivate when they hear a bell ring. So in other words, he would feed the dogs, and every time he fed the dogs, a bell would ring. So they would start to salivate. And then eventually, over time, he would just ring the bell with no food, and the dogs would salivate. So that's classic conditioning, which is exactly what's happening when you hear the notification on your phone. You know, you're accustomed to these messages coming in. So yeah, I mean, that makes perfect sense that if you hear the notification, that you'll start to react to that and become, I guess, somewhat addicted to it as well. So I would say that's probably right out of Psych 101 that's happening. Okay, and so here's another comment. Insisting on paying for lunch or dinner at first, or at least saying they'll do things for you. Some of them will spend a little, some won't. Depends on how miserly they are, all fooling you, really. Yes. In the beginning, yeah, I experienced this one. In the beginning, the sociopath absolutely will pay. They'll take you out to dinner, they'll buy you presents, they might even take you on vacation and be paying for everything. What you later find out, of course, is that he stole the money from the previous love interest or previous wife or something like that in order to get the money to pay you. I mean, that's what happened to me. My ex-husband was convincing me to cover his expenses, but then he was taking money and entertaining other women. So, I mean, that's another classic move that they'll do. I mean, they will seem to be showering you with affection and attention when what they're really doing is taking some other person's money in order to accomplish this, lining you up to be the next one who will be targeted to have money taken from. Right. And so, Di Caruga, I'm not quite sure how to say your screen name, but they could care less about the damage. Could be minor gain for them, yet serious harm for the victim. They just don't think about it or care either. That's absolutely correct. Okay. Wow. All right. So Claire says, mine would refuse to call me by my name, not even a nickname or term of endearment. He literally never addressed me. So invalidating. Yeah, I can imagine that. And another thing that did happen, and maybe this is why this person is doing it, I don't know, I'm speculating, but my sociopathic ex-husband had these little pet names. One of them was Nuffles. Where'd that come from? I don't know. He made it up. But Nuffles and Darwies. Darwie, he was from Australia, and so it was essentially the Australian version of darling. He'd say Darwies. So he had all these names that he would use all the time. But eventually I realized he used the pet names so he didn't get in trouble because he was seeing 6 other women and probably using the same pet names with everybody in order not to say the wrong name when he was with a person. So, I guess in your case, his method was not to say any names at all, to, make sure that he didn't say the wrong name when with you. Okay. So we have a comment here. I'd like to notify you that Carl Jung was an empath. Okay. I don't know a whole lot about him. I've been meaning to look into Jungian psychology and some of his ideas. But anyway, one of the interesting things about love bombing, the term itself, where the term love bombing came from was the Unification Church, the Moonies. And the leader of that church, Sun Myung Moon, actually said the term, talked about love bombing in a speech that he made in 1978. And what he said was that church members were always smiling because they are so full of love. So, of course, a lot of people believe the Unification Church is a cult. And Dr. Margaret Thayer Singer wrote a book called Cults in Our Midst. And she believes, and did research to validate this, that love bombing is more effective, was more effective than the brainwashing that was carried about by the North Korea during the war on their POWs. So she wrote that and this is typical for cults. because a lot of cults, in my opinion, cult leaders are probably sociopaths on steroids. So this whole love bombing technique was actually a recruitment technique for the cults. And so what would happen is that the members of the cult would shower the new recruits with flattery, with verbal seduction, with affectionate but non-sexual touching, and also with attention to every remark that they made. So what happened, of course, is that the recruits feel like they have this new family and that they're being validated. And it turned out to be very effective. So as I said, in my opinion, cult leaders are probably sociopaths on steroids. And I believe that for sociopaths, feigning love and affection is just instinctive. So what happens is that, once if a person is a sociopath who decides to become a cult leader, they just do what comes naturally on a bigger scale. And so they apply this, feigning affection and verbal seduction and all of this to hundreds or thousands of recruits. And so a way to look at this is that, when you're being love bombed, essentially what's happening is that you are being recruited into the sociopath's personal cult. Okay. All right. And so we have more comments. Aim your feelings at all the time. Present themselves as warm, friendly, and caring person. One was always saying he saw my friend one time as if we were part of a big family. Infiltration. Well, yep. That's probably a technique that a sociopath would use to, try and make you feel like you're all part of the big, happy family. So absolutely, that would happen. So, okay. So Ted says, oh, Johnny Cash, he gave us some lyrics here. Love is a burning thing and it makes a fiery ring. Bound by wild desire, I fell into a ring of fire. Okay. There's Johnny Cash. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us again today. So I just want to remind you to be sure to check out the True Love Fraud Stories podcast. And that's where survivors tell their own outrageous stories of betrayal. You can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts or here on YouTube and YouTube Music, or visit lovefraud.com/podcasts. And once again, please subscribe to Love Fraud Live. When you do, you'll be automatically notified about all my new videos. And plus, by subscriptions and comments, you're helping to boost the distribution of Love Fraud Live. And that means warning the world about the dangerous sociopaths who live among us. So thank you very much. I'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 8 p.m. ET, Eastern Time, for the next episode of Love Fraud Live. Good night.